Hello, Bright Bible family. This is Monica joining you for our next session. I announced earlier in my reminder today that it was week 24, but hey, we are actually ahead of the game. We are in week 25, which is First Chronicles, and we are tackling a real toughie tonight. We are in the genealogies, and we are dead in the middle of the descendants of David. So in chapters 3 and 4, 4 are the descendants of Judah, but this is really the genealogy of David that we'll be focusing on tonight. And I want to talk a little bit about a problem solving. So I think for me, these pages about what to do with genealogies. Are they pages that you enjoy by studying through the history and looking things up and figuring out what that tree really looked like? Or is it something for you that you just kind of skip over and think, I'm not really interested? To be honest with you, I'm more on the, I would skip over it. I would just think through, this is not really something that is of interest to me. Why do I really need to know it? And I don't know if there is a good reason of why you need to know it, if you need to know it. But I certainly think there's a lot there to just help you make connections as you read through the stories in the Bible. That is something that I think now, being a little bit more involved in reading the Bible and understanding the bigger picture at hand, it's often interesting to go back and read those genealogies to just see it very in simple form. So in this particular section, what I really want to talk about tonight, I want to do something a little bit different than just jumping right into our journal page, which I do have a plan for tonight's page as far as let's do this page together, right? But I also want to look at the bigger picture of how do we creatively solve the problem quotations, of hitting these genealogies. What do you do with them? Now, this particular idea tonight that I'm going to give you, or some of these ideas, are not necessarily going to be, some of these are super long, and there's just so many layers and layers and layers of people that it may not work. But I think for the pages that you are just wanting to kind of highlight, or you want to just use this as a memory opportunity, because to me this is more about visual memory, right? It's about giving yourself something to look at, or just the process of writing out the names, to me is part of learning the scripture and part of understanding the history in a better way. So I think that's what this is about for me, is about, okay, if I want to understand David and his 19 sons, by the way, 19 sons, and I want to know them. I want to remember that Solomon is David's son. If I want to remember whose children he had with Bathsheba. I want to be able to think of that quickly. I have to do something with that information. If I just read it, it's going to go in one ear and out the other, right? So what can we do with this information? So the first part of tonight is really going to be, it's just going to be a little bit of notes. I'm doing this totally just off the cuff. I've thought through these things. It's not like I'm not thinking through them, but I want to look at what could we do. Okay. So I'm going to just take some notes. The first thing that pops into mind, I'm sure for many of you, and this is actually going to be part of our page tonight, is a family tree. So when you're talking about doing a tree, there's obviously a gazillion ways to do it. But one idea would be to actually put the name, okay, in this case, because of the fact that we're looking at David and we have this one person's genealogy, we can put their name kind of in the middle of the tree or on the tree and have these branches that kind of come out around. These are my marks in the tree, okay? It would be kind of cool in this case, because David had so many wives, to list the names of the wives here on this tree. And then as I drew this tree too far up, but as we fill in this green area around, we start to write in the names of his children, okay? So that would be one way, I think, to capture one family, if we're talking about this person and his descendants. Cool would this be? I mean, number one, it's, we're working on margins, many of us, so having that tree fit throughout would be really beautiful. You've got also, oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. A tree, which is something that you can find an image for so easily, right? And you don't have to do much with the drawing of it if you just kind of create almost that outline effect, because you'll have so much material, so many names to put within. So it's a great opportunity. Oh, this is what I was going to say. A great opportunity for you to do some fun lettering and just let your lettering kind of be that memorization. And what I'm saying by memorization is I just simply mean what I said earlier. How do I just read through this, right? I can't read through it. So if I engage with it, it's much more likely to stick. Okay. Second part is to do this with some sort of rhythm of a grid. Now, I don't even necessarily think that using a grid needs to be so specific, but you certainly could, do your genealogy in something like this, and you could do it the trickle down, but I know he has more than the 4 wives. But let's just say, we use like little hearts to show the wives, and then we come down here and we have our little trickle down effect of our sons, and you could continuously, then you could list them, name. You could even write in notes if we have connections to what some of these sons did. So another way to go about creating image would be to use something super simple like a grid, and have fun with the coloring, and maybe the different kinds of mark makings or the symbolisms that you're using are going to help you be able to look at it quickly and like gather that thought. Because listen, if you could look at this and see father, wives, sons, that is so much easier than reading this, right? This is a lot to take in. So I think there's definitely those sections that you are interested in learning the history of or to engage in. This is a great opportunity as well. All right, what is another way to do this? Okay, so if you've ever seen these really cool, let me think about what they would be called. Illustrated advertisement, right? And you literally watch someone draw out as the advertisement or as the commercial or as the message goes out. And I think this is really cool because, you could have like King David, and this could be really cool for the entire genealogy of Dave, or of either of David or of Jesus, going right down to the cross. But being able to use small images of symbolism, or, his 19 boys. Can you imagine 19 boys? Holy smokes. I have 2 and it's like, whoa, 19. I'm sure he didn't do much to take, I'm sure he was, he had plenty of helpers, right? Okay, so, but then being able to connect and and tell the story as you go, whatever these, here's the little wife and she distracted me because she was washing Bathsheba, whatever. You can tell his story with very, very simple images, symbols, arrows, lines, etc. So I think showing kind of this is really a lot of like what we did a couple weeks ago with micro journaling, being able to just use teeny simple images, but to connect the dots, to leave your notes as you go, and then to be able to show that story. So this would be kind of cool here. This is a really cool idea, actually, because in this section specifically, which is 1 Chronicles 3, what we're talking about here is who the kids were born to. So you're talking about the different ladies coming in. You also hear where they were born. So 6 were born to him in Hebron, okay, where he reigned. Then we have these were born to him in Jerusalem. So some of them it's just saying who the mother is, but then it has those other, Hebron, and then it says Jerusalem. So again, you've got like 2 different places, but there's also his reign in between there, which you also see. The other thing is that it also says, which is a huge, this would be the picture I would draw for this. Woo, woo, woo. Question mark, who are his concubines, okay? Because it doesn't even list any children that he had with his concubines or to say who they were. So I think that would be a really interesting way to see this out, because it's almost like you're working yourself through that story with images. All right, another way to do this. Keep this simple, guys. Writing out their names. Okay? You're talking about all sorts of super cool names. How cool would this be? To have their names written, but then like to interact with them like as if they were a Scrabble board, you know, and having your page as this giant Scrabble board. I'm trying to look for an E here. So you've got all of these names, oops, that you could just create something image-wise with the names. And even if you didn't do a Scrabble board, even if you just used different fonts and listed their names out, I'm telling you, if you take the time to do something like that, you guys know this because when we do our writing, we talk about this a lot. And I love Ann Gillespie with Visual Faith. She taught for us at our first retreat. And one of the things that she always talks about is that handwriting helps us. Why is hand lettering like effective? It's because you have to slow down. So when you slow down to spell out, to color in, to connect with that name is going to become right on your mind the next time that you're reading the story or when you connect with him somewhere else when he's mentioned in the Bible. So that would be another thing to do is just play with the names. Okay, and then my last thing would that I'm going to talk about tonight, and I know some of these are obvious, but I just thought, let's just talk, let's just have this talk, right? Let's just talk this out. How do we tackle this? There's all sorts of ways. I've actually got two more. I just thought of something else. Using an item, okay, now follow me here. Using the drawing or the painting of an item that has the number of what you're trying to do. Okay, so hear me out on this. Let's just say I'm just going to draw like a random branch. It'll be somewhat like an olive branch, okay? So here, just hear me out. Here's King David, right? Here's the branch. Now, how many wives? It looks like 7 plus concubines. So we're talking like 8 plus ladies. I'm just going to put 7. I would have to go through to double check that real quick. But let's just say, okay, I'm going to include then 7 leaves. Okay, you get where I'm going with this. 7 leaves of this branch. How many do I have? 6, 7. Okay, and then I'm going to include my little olives, right? And I could put these olives. This is actually a really cool idea. I love when I say that. I don't mean to sound pompous. That was not meant to be said out loud. Okay, these here berries representing or olives representing each of the children. So this is where you're going to use visual only, okay? And you're looking at numbers and you're looking at their place. Like, who are they? Are they the mother, the father, the concubine, the this or the that? So that's another thing that you can do that I didn't even wasn't even thinking of. The last thing would be, and this would be cool too if you were doing this like in a tree and you did like a certain amount of fruit, or you did a row of strawberry bushes and on the, I don't know, like whatever it could be. Think of that image that you can then alter. The last thing that I was thinking about that would be super fun, and I have done something like this before, is to just simply use washi tape right on the side, right? And to use the different colors to represent different things. So for instance, if I use this washi tape to represent David's relationship with Bathsheba, I could write, Sheba, and then I could have his other wives, right? And then I could use this here, again, down here. Maybe I'll split it. Well, that didn't work. Okay, use that down here, right? And then I can start listing her sons. Nathan is one, and then Solomon is the other. And I use those colors of washi tape or even just painted strips in order to visually see that genealogy. So that's what this lesson really is all about, is how do we take these pages and develop some creative ways in order for you to engage with them quickly with looking at them, but also to have that time that you are creating, just like everything else we do with Bible journaling, the time that you create to actually soak in the information and not just read past it. So easy to read past these, okay? So what we're going to do is start with, we're going to do two things. We're going to use color to represent David's 19 sons. And so what I've done is I've counted up my lines. I'm working in my regular journaling Bible. This is one I've used for teaching for a few years. And I'm going to go up 19 spaces and kind of give myself an area here. And what I'm going to actually do is so stinking simple, is I'm going to use my Tombow pens, because I think I can do this. I think I can do the coloring a little bit easier and still be able to see through. So what I'm going to do here is to actually take my marker and just color. And I could do this with watercolor, with colored pencil, but I'm going to just baseline these colors here and just try to get as many different colors. I don't think I have 19 colors, but you never know. I do have a box full of goodies. So each of these lines, and if I do use the lighter tones, I'm going to be able to see where I write in here, which I think is also important. Because what I'll do is I'll come back in here and write last one. Okay, so there's his 19 sons, and I will not bore you with writing all of their names in, but the idea then would be that I would go back in here and I would probably put them in alphabetical order because that's just who I am, and I would write them in. So I'm going to do the first couple so that you see what I'm saying. I might put them in the middle here. I'm so glad that I did not try to read the passage to you tonight, because I don't know that you guys could have handled how silly I would have sounded by trying to say a lot of these names. That's just the truth. All right. So that's what I would probably do, and that was not alphabetical, but it is how they are listed here. That's what I should have said, not necessarily alphabetical. And I would continue on doing that so that they were all listed out. Okay, now on to our family tree. Tombow markers are a dual tip, which means that there are two ends. There's a skinny fine point. It looks a lot like a fine point Sharpie marker. And then you've got this nice bouncy brush on the end. And they are they're wonderful for hand lettering. I do like them for the Bible. In this case, we did really good not bleeding through. And most of the time, that's the case. But if you are going over it multiple times, or you're pushing really heavy with that ink, you do end up getting a little bit of bleed through. But here's the thing that you have to remember using Tombows. Tombows are like Crayola. They are washable. They are water-based. So if I was to use watercolor, which I will be, I have to be very conscious of where that water is flowing. But not only on this page, and this is speaking from experience, if I start to watercolor back here, I'm going to get the bleeding happening up here as well. So you just have to keep that in mind. Other than that, they are a really good marker for just simple coloring. I do love that. Okay, so back to this Detroit D. We are in Detroit, well, we're not in Detroit. We're in Michigan. And one of the things in Michigan that a lot of people have on their cars is a big Old English D for Detroit Tigers. And really the whole city has kind of taken that on. So I'm going to just put in here my little Old English-ish, Old English-ish Detroit D, or really in this case it's the David D, right? I wanted to do then is to draw this tree around him. And I'm going to tell you that I have seen a picture of a tree that I was like, okay, this is super duper cool. So we're going to try it. The tree, trunk of the tree was done as a DNA spiral. How cool is that? So I'm gonna use that, and I wish that I could tell you where I saw that, but I just remember seeing that and thinking, oh my gosh, that's a really good idea for the tree. Okay, so I'm going to kind of spin my tree a little bit here and there. Oh, I wish I could get a third one in there. Can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to do it. So I've got that right there. And I'm going to go over this with pen so I know that right now you can't see. I didn't sketch tonight. Usually I have these things sketched out for you. And what I'm going to do then is actually double this up, okay? You might have to really think through your transition here when you start to go from the DNA section to, like, you know, branching off and having either roots coming down or the branches going up. And then you're going to crisscross like this. Oh boy, that's going to be a little guy. Okay. And then we'll have other branches and roots coming off. So we'll figure that out in the meantime. But you want to double those lines up because we want to be able to fill them in with the brown of the tree trunk so that they actually do appear or look like the roots coming down. And then what we can do is when we're coloring this in, we're actually going to use, I'm going to use just colored pencils for this part, I think. We'll connect here, okay, with these little crossbars like the DNA does. So that's going to kind of be our tree. And you want to twist these just a slight bit so that they look like they're spinning. So your lines are going to kind of go in motion with them. Okay. And that'll end up being the trunk of your tree. Now we're going to add more color around it and kind of give it more substance here in a minute, but that would be the start of it. And then from there, now you can kind of wrap around, and I'm going to tell you a little trick. In fact, I'm going to do this on my piece of scrap paper for you guys. One of the things, now this is like, you're going to have to follow me here. One of the things I used to love to teach my kids in school was how to draw a tree in a realistic sense of how a tree works, okay? So here's the tree. Roots and branches have the same principle. But once you have your tree up, if you're basically splitting your tree every time with a V and bringing them up, okay? A V, and just follow me, and you're bringing them up, V, and bringing them up. So you've got your parallel lines. It ends up doubling every time. Hopefully that makes sense. Am I on camera? Yeah, there we go. So I've got 4 sections, right? So I'm going to put a V in here, and I'm going to bring the sides up to meet. The letter V up to meet. Now, this is super, obviously, very elementary, very basic tree. But if you practice this a few times, you're going to get the gist of how those trees should really look. Because here's what we don't want. We don't want you to do this. Okay, not good. Not good. No, 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 no. We are so much better than that. So if we do this to get ourselves started, then what we can start to do then is to actually branch out, no pun intended, okay? And we start to get the idea that these V's come off in all different directions, and they can do all sorts of crazy different things, and we can just grow our tree that way. And these can start to overlap, you know what I mean? You're getting the gist. But that is a trick that really, really works to get you a decent tree. Now we see too where the green is. So what should we do next? I'm thinking I want to use like a royal purple. Let's think purple, green, brown, purple, green, brown. Yeah, I think I'll go purple. Maybe like a reddish purple here. Green and red are good together. I definitely too, like I said, you could go in here inside this tree when you're done and add in the women's names, or even have them, you know, just listed to the side, or however you may want to do that. Now, Scribble sticks, the next piece. The Scribble sticks look like super softy crayons, and actually they really look more like an oil pastel. I would say they fall right between an oil pastel and a crayon. And there are, when I'm in the classroom, there is a brand that is less mixed media based. It's more just art based for children. And they are called water soluble oil pastels, or water soluble pastels, or something like that. But they are much more inexpensive. The brand is Reeves, that I use, Reeves. And there's many of these types of products. Now, gelatos are very similar, and I would say that the distressed crayons are very similar as well. But these definitely, I feel like, give you more of that playful feeling. They also have, I know they won't stay this tipped out, but they have that tip to be able to work with, which is one of the downfalls of a gelato. Gelatos are so bold on the end that you're getting more of an all-around thing happening, where these, I feel like you can really have fun almost drawing them out. So I've got a couple of greens I want to steal here. I've got this green, this green, and this green, and this is I've got two sets, and I know that they're slightly different. Let me see if there's a name on these guys. I think it's just the number, but this one I think is my more bold colors, and then this is my more primary. So there's some differences here. You get more of a teal, teal in this one. You get more of a magenta here. This is more of a true red and pink, where this is more of a coral and the lime. So they're very similar, these two sets that I got, but they are both really nice. Let me get this true green out of here as well. Yeah, this is really greeny. Okay, and then I've got kind of a grayish brown. I think I'll bring some browns in there as well, just because of the fact that we've got that nice trunk. Yeah, okay. All right, so what I'm going to do here, and I messed my page. Okay, I'm going to start with one of the lighter tones, okay, and I'm just going to play around to see how nice. This is the thing about them, is they have more of a pointed tip. So like I said, they just make you want to play and be scribbly, like just free up a little bit. And so I'm just going to hit some of these sections with some scribble lines, some color in between, especially where these branches are kind of having some open spaces. And I'm going to start with some of my lightest colors as I build this tree up. Once we've got some color on there, you can start with, this is, for me with the scribble sticks, I feel the most in control with something like this because that water's already in there. This is a really fine tipped one, and a lot of these come very bulky. Ooh, and I wish I could tell you what this brand, this is the brand, I will never pronounce this brand right in my entire life. Quretake company, and they're the same brand, I think, that makes some of our pens that we like so much. So this is usually brand like a Japanese brand that has some really beautiful brush pens as well. When you see that brand, you know it's a good thing. Great choices here with the tips of these. So see how when I go through this, I can bleed some of this color out, but I don't lose that playfulness of my line. And I could, if I went over this a lot, I could bleed that color right out, but that's not my intention. My intention is I want to see some of the fun. So I'm going in here, just waking things up a little bit, highlighting, filling in some spots, leaving some other spots. I got a little goldeny over here, so I can go back in with some greens. But this way I have a little control. If I wanted to come in here with a real light color, I've got that control, but yet it's still going to highlight, I'm not going to lose the D by going nuts with too much color too quickly. So that's what I love about these. I just think they're the best. They are just so neat and different. And they just give you a different feeling. Now see how when I went over the edge of that tree, it kind of gives it the little bulk that it needed, but we still see that inside. So I still want a color in here. I don't want that to be like stark white. But I don't have to have such a perfect edge of the tree. But the coolness is the lines. It looks like actual bark. It's really neat. And then you can bleed these out too. So it just kind of looks like your roots kind of just flow right here on the page. So great, great, great way to do your genealogy. And again, don't forget to not get so stuck on just this page idea, but how can you take the time to memorize what you've read, writing them out. You know, in this case, we are spending more time on the image part of it, so it's that quick glance. If we ever need to reference, we're quickly glancing and we've got it rather than reading the text. But I definitely think if you're looking to memorize certain parts of the history of the Bible, that going through the process with writing out the names or with having the visual storytelling, those are things that are really going to be beneficial for you and your faith journey. So that's pretty much what I've got for you tonight, but I definitely want to invite you guys to join us throughout the week. We have so much goodness with our coaches. They are really bringing some great ideas to the Bright Bible, and they're going live, and they love when you guys are able to join them. I hope that you will. We've got, I know I'm not going to remember everybody. I'm so terrible, but I always remember Jillian is Tuesdays with the Bible journaling tour. And guys, if you know someone in the states of North Dakota, South Dakota, West Virginia, I think it's West Virginia, and definitely Wisconsin, we are looking for Bible journalers in those states right now. Those are the states that we're trying to fill up for our Bible journaling tour. And this tour is our official The Bright Bible, which has been painted and boxed up for each of you to get as a surprise for a few days to journal in and be a part of our community in such a cool way. So no matter where you are, check that out on the website, thebrightbible.com, and get yourself signed up. So you can hear all about that. If you're kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about, Monica, you sound crazy right now. If you need to hear it for yourself, you're going to join Jillian right here on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. We also have wonderful words from God's Word, but through Coach Kelly. Wednesdays in the Word. I'm telling you guys, if you have missed these days, you are missing a wonderful message from a wonderful human. She has got such a connection to God's Word in a way to deliver it with creativity and with storytelling and with just her experiences. And it is really, truly a beautiful time to just like rest in God's Word and just to hear and be inspired. So I highly encourage you to check that out. We also have Jamie peeking on throughout the week to do more lessons like this one. And we've got some surprises coming. We've got a couple of coaches working on some pretty big surprises that they'll be launching really soon, including Coach Julie with the Stylist Studio. That's right, I said Stylist Studio. That means that we're going to have a whole area devoted to digital Bible journaling. Now, don't you even think about thinking, well, I just journal in my Bible. I want you to be very open-minded about this, because she has got some great resources. She is a very talented graphic artist, and she's got resources that are going to serve you well in your Bible journal, like your regular Bible journal. But she's also going to challenge us to use our iPads, use our iPhones. Think about how we can track, the work that we can. And if you are a digital Bible journaler, you're going to enjoy her lessons so very much. So we've got lots of good stuff coming. We are still moving forward with retreat at this time, but we are I would say we are in the yellow zone right now for retreat. So if you have not purchased your tickets, hold off for just a couple of weeks, just because we need to get through a little hump here in Michigan to make sure that we are safe. So if we do have any sort of worries about the fall, we're kind of waiting for the schools to make some decisions, and then we'll be making some decisions from there. So if you have not signed up for retreat, I would say just hold off. Give us a couple of weeks to make some more decisions about the safety for each of you guys, and then from there we'll let you know if it's go for launch. So I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight. I've given you a lot of things to think about, a lot of information, some new tricks to try, maybe a product to add to your wish list. You can I think I have these linked on our website. I believe they may be. I'll have to get them on there if they're not. But you can always check them out. Dina Winkley Media Scribble Sticks from Ranger. Did you guys know that we have a place for you to be able to access Amazon through the Bright Bible, and that way you know the products you're getting are what we actually were talking about? If not, check it out, thebrightbible.com, journaling supplies. All right, you guys have a great night. It's always a pleasure. Love to all of you. Happy journaling as always.